From fake cops robbing celebrities to best friends stealing millions, these are the wildest celebrity scams ever. Starting with Rihanna, when she got scammed and lost $2 million. In 2009, Rihanna was at the height of her career and decided to invest in real estate. She purchased a $6.9 million mansion in Beverly Hills, 6 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, and an infinity pool. It was meant to be a secure, long-term home. Within weeks after moving in, every time it rained, the place turned into the Titanic. Water leaked through windows and walls, flooding parts of the property. The damage wasn't minor. It suggested deep structural and drainage issues that had existed long before she bought it. Rihanna was stunned. She'd bought the property through a well-known real estate agent, had an inspection, signed all the paperwork. The whole thing was supposed to be airtight. Instead, she found out the inspector and the agent allegedly knew about the water damage and structural problems, but sold it to her anyway. So Rihanna did what Rihanna does. She took action. Rihanna sued the seller, the agent, and the inspector, accusing them of fraud and negligence. Her legal team brought forward inspection records, expert testimony, and weather data showing the property had experienced severe leaks in the past. The defense denied wrongdoing, claiming they were unaware of the full extent of the issues. While the court drama dragged on, Rihanna moved out, refusing to live in what she called an uninhabitable property. She even had to sell it in 2011 for just $5 million, eating a $1.9 million loss just to get rid of it. But this wasn't a total loss for her. In 2012, the case quietly settled, with reports suggesting she got a payout from at least some of the parties involved. The exact numbers were never made public, but given Rihanna's lawyers, it probably covered more than just a few new umbrellas. But if Rihanna's mansion nightmare sounds bad, the next story is about a celebrity who didn't just lose millions to a bad deal, he lost it to someone who worked right next to him every day. In 2015, Kevin Hart was one of the hardest working entertainers in Hollywood. Comedy tours, blockbuster movies, endorsement deals, his schedule was chaos. To help manage his personal purchases, he hired Dylan Sire, a personal shopper he trusted to handle anything from clothes to gifts without bothering him with details. For a while, everything seemed fine, but over 2 years, that trust became one of Kevin's most expensive mistakes. Sire wasn't just buying for Kevin, he was buying for himself, and not small items either. Court records showed high-end watches, luxury handbags, artwork, and jewelry, all charged to Kevin's accounts. The kicker? Sire didn't even try to hide it. He was posting his new designer gear and flashy cars on Instagram, building his own image with Kevin's money. Investigators said he'd carefully mix legitimate purchases for Kevin with his own, making the fraud look like normal spending. By the time Hart realized what was going on, Sire had run up over $1 million in unauthorized charges. It wasn't a one-time hit. It was a long, calculated drip of theft, stretched over years right under Kevin's nose. When the truth came out, it hit hard. This wasn't just about money. It was about someone Kevin let into his inner circle taking full advantage of that access. As prosecutors put it, Sire treated Kevin's credit cards like his personal bank account. In 2021, after years of legal battles, Sire was sentenced to prison and ordered to pay restitution. But the reality was clear. Most of that money was gone for good. And while Kevin's assistant was stealing in plain sight, the next case is about a Hollywood legend who lost a fortune so massive, it's hard to even understand how it could disappear. By the mid-2010s, Johnny Depp wasn't just a movie star. He was one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood history. Pirates of the Caribbean alone had earned him hundreds of millions. At his peak, Depp's net worth was estimated at $650 million, a fortune big enough to last several lifetimes. But Depp wasn't just storing that money in a bank. He was living the kind of life most people only see in movies. 14 homes around the world, a private island in the Bahamas, a collection of vintage cars and rare guitars, even a yacht once owned by J.K. Rowling. Every detail of his life was tailored, curated, expensive. Behind the scenes, his finances were managed by a firm called the Management Group, TMG. Depp had worked with them for years, trusting them to handle taxes, bills, investments, everything. He wasn't checking every document or every payment. If they said it needed signing, he signed. Then in 2017, that trust collapsed. Depp sued TMG, accusing them of fraud, negligence, and secretly draining his fortune. According to him, they failed to pay taxes on time, charged hidden fees, and made reckless investments without his approval, all while collecting millions in management commissions. TMG didn't quietly settle. They came out swinging. In court filings, they claimed Depp's financial troubles were entirely self-inflicted, pointing to an alleged $2 million a month lifestyle. They listed private jets, art buying sprees, 45 luxury cars, and even a $3 million cannon used to fire the ashes of his friend, Hunter S. Thompson, into the sky. The legal battle quickly turned public. Documents leaked, stories ran across major outlets, and suddenly Depp's private spending habits were front-page news. For fans, it was shocking. Not just the money, but how it had been managed for so long without serious oversight. By 2018, the lawsuit was quietly settled out of court. Details were never disclosed, but Depp was forced to sell multiple properties and restructure his finances. His fortune, once among the largest in Hollywood, had been drastically reduced. But not all scams are slow burns. Sometimes it's one gift, one favor, one moment, and suddenly you're caught in the middle of an international crime story. By the mid-2000s teens, Leonardo DiCaprio wasn't just winning Oscars and headlining movies. He was collecting art like it was treasure. In his private collection sat paintings worth millions, but one stood out, a $3.2 million Pablo Picasso. It wasn't something he went out and bought. It was a gift from a Malaysian businessman named Joe Low. In Hollywood, Low was everywhere. He threw parties on yachts, sat courtside at NBA games, funded movies like The Wolf of Wall Street, and handed out luxury gifts to celebrities like it was nothing. But behind all that glamour was one of the biggest financial scams in modern history. Joe Low was accused of stealing billions from Malaysia's public investment fund, money meant for the country's development. Instead, it was spent on mansions, private jets, jewelry, and, yes, Leonardos Picasso. When investigators started following the money, they found a trail leading straight into Hollywood. Suddenly, DiCaprio's prized Picasso wasn't just art, it was evidence. The US government got involved, and the news hit headlines worldwide. DiCaprio hadn't done anything wrong, but the fact that a stolen fortune had ended up funding gifts for him was explosive. Rather than fight it, Leo cooperated fully. In 2017, he handed over the Picasso to federal agents, along with other gifts linked to Joe Low. The scandal didn't stop there. The 1MDB case became a global manhunt, with Joe Low vanishing and becoming one of the most wanted fugitives in the world. Billions were recovered, but much of the money, and in Low himself, is still missing. That $3.2 million Picasso that once hung in his collection wasn't just a masterpiece, it was part of a billion-dollar crime story. And if that feels like a movie plot, the next one is straight out of a heist film, except it happened in real life, in the middle of Paris with one of the most famous women in the world as the target. In October 2016, Paris was packed for Fashion Week, and Kim Kardashian was there for the shows. She was staying at a private luxury residence, no bodyguards outside, no heavy security at the door. Inside her room, she had millions of dollars worth of jewelry, including her $4 million engagement ring from Kanye West. On the night of October 3rd, just after 2 a.m., 5 men dressed as police officers walked up to the building. They didn't force their way in. They got the concierge to open the door by showing fake badges. Once inside, 2 of them went straight to Kim's room. She was alone, wearing a bathrobe. The men burst in, pulled her out of bed, tied her hands and feet, and locked her in the bathroom. They didn't yell. They didn't rush. It was calm and controlled. The whole thing lasted minutes. They took everything: the ring, necklaces, earrings, and other pieces worth over $10 million. Then they vanished into the streets of Paris, leaving Kim bound and terrified. The news broke within hours, and it exploded worldwide. Some thought it was staged. Others couldn't believe something so precise could happen to one of the most famous women on earth. But French police launched an investigation, pulling CCTV footage, tracing calls, and tracking suspects. Over the next few months, they arrested over a dozen people, most of them older men in their 50s and 60s with long criminal histories. One of them, Yunus Abba, even wrote a tell-all book about the robbery after being released from prison, casually explaining how they planned it and why Kim was an easy target. For Kim, the aftermath was life-changing. She later admitted she thought she might be killed that night. She stopped wearing flashy jewelry in public, cut down her security risks, and completely changed the way she traveled. The Paris jewelry heist became one of the most famous celebrity crimes of the decade, not because of violence, but because of how they pulled off a robbery that shook the fashion world, the Kardashian brand, and the idea that fame and money can keep you safe.